everyone, and welcome to the Smart Designer podcast. I'm back with all things tech and design. I have an amazing guest today who has recently been to High Point in North Carolina. High Point is known for being the home furnishings capital of the world, and 2 times out of the year, the city hosts the High Point Market, the world's largest home furnishings trade show. Mandie is also the founder and owner of MLR Interior Design, where she offers interior design services in person and virtually. I'm so excited to have you on the show here, Mandie, and I can't wait to hear a little bit more about you and your services, and especially how your visit to High Point went. So can you tell me a little bit how you started your business?
Sure. Well, first, hi, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it and happy to be here. I decided to go back to design school when I turned 40. It's a second career for me, as I know it is for many of us. And when I was in school, I was working for a designer in the DC area, and I loved her and I learned a lot from her. But it made me realize I did not want to work for anybody else. I really wanted to be able to do my own thing, my own design style. And so I decided to open my own business. So here we are.
Wow, that's amazing. And props to you for starting your own business. And you know, that's sometimes, you know, a leap of faith to start your own business. And from the looks of how you've been doing in your website, you're doing really good. So
well, thank you. Yes, it's been, considering I started in the middle of a pandemic, I'd say I did pretty well my first year.
Yep. The next question I have on the list is why you started your own business, other than you wanted to kind of be your own boss and not work for anyone else. You know, again, is there any other reasons? Can you tell me maybe some really good things that you learned with starting your own business?
Well, another big reason I did it was because I do have a daughter. She's now 16. And so I still needed that flexibility to be able to kind of set my own schedule and to work around hers, because until recently I was driving her everywhere she needed to be. And what I've learned is that it's hard running your business. They don't teach you how to run a business in design school, which I know we hear people say all the time, but it's really true. And I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm thankful for that. So I was able to, you know, take a bunch of courses and read a bunch of blogs and, you know, talk to other designers like you. And it's just been a steep learning curve, I would say. But, you know, it's a good one. So we're here and we're doing okay.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, what is the most fulfilling part?
When your clients are just so happy and thankful for you helping them. I'm finishing up a project and the lady's having her 4th child, and she's just like, thank you so much for doing this for me. Like, I'm doing their living room, and she's like, I just don't have the energy or the time. I'm like, it's okay. I got you. I understand why I'm here. Happy to help. Yeah. So when they're happy, it makes me happy.
Yeah, that must, you know, really be the most meaningful part of, you know, changing others' lives in a, you know, with design.
Absolutely.
You do.
Yes. It really impacts their lives for sure.
Yep. What are your hobbies? What can we find you doing outside of work?
Yeah. So when I'm not working, I am either hanging out with my family or my friends. I like to read, work out, and my guilty pleasure would probably be watching Bravo.
I've never watched Bravo. What is that, a channel or a show?
Yeah, it's a channel. It's all the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, you know, and I don't know why I watch it. I'm like, this is such a waste of time, but it's hysterical. I'm like, yeah, they're crazy. So yeah, it's my guilty pleasure, watching the Housewives.
It's good to get away from work and just kind of, you know, refresh yourself, and then you can come back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta turn that design brain off for a minute, let it rest for sure. Yep. Yeah.
So here's a weird off-topic question. If you were any ice cream flavor, what would you be and why?
I would have to say pecan praline, because I'm definitely sweet, but a little bit salty too. So that's what I would go with.
That's awesome. I also, you know, want to hear how your visit to High Point went. So can you share some of your favorite parts? Anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, so my favorite part, being a new designer, was really getting to see all the showrooms in person and meeting with the reps face to face, and being introduced to some new brands that I had never heard of, or hadn't worked with before. So that was probably the best part of it. Everything else was very overwhelming because
I'm
it's
sure
so big.
it's like, wow, what can I relate? I've never been to High Point myself, but I have been to KBIS, and I
Hmm.
remember how overwhelming that was. So,
Yes. Yeah, you definitely have to have a plan. Thankfully, I went with another designer who's been in the business for 8 years. And so she's like, okay, pick your top 4 or 5 places you want to go to, make a list of everything else. And if you hit the rest of them, great. And if you don't, then at least you hit your top 3 and you're good to go. Because it's an interesting town. It's literally city blocks of buildings filled with vendors, and there's nothing else. There's no CVS, there's no restaurants, nothing. It's all furniture and accessories. So
can I
it's a
ask
neat
what
place.
can I ask what shoes you wore?
Oh, my tennis shoes for sure. I bought a special pair of Clark's very comfortable tennis shoes, and everybody, like, we're all dressed up in our nice, cute dresses or outfits, and we all have on tennis shoes. Ain't nobody walking around in high heels. Mm-mm.
I've heard some horror stories about going to trade shows before and having high heels on, and it's just not a good combo.
No, no, mm-mm. Yep, keep
Well,
tennis shoes.
thanks for sharing a little bit about how High Point was. Do you have maybe a favorite vendor you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so I have I guess one art vendor is Prestige Arts. They have really nice quality prints, and the price that we get, the trade price you get, is really phenomenal, especially considering it comes framed and they ship it to you, and it's like 60% off retail. It's crazy. So they're probably my favorite art vendor. Furniture wise, I have to say I fell in love with Vanguard Furniture while I was there. I've never used them in a project yet, but I loved it so much that I'm considering ordering some bedroom furniture for myself from them, because I was just like, this stuff is beautiful. It's highly customizable, and it's reasonably priced. It's not cheap, but it's not $7,000 for a couch either. It's nice middle road, perfect for what I'm looking for. So I was very, very excited to find them. And that showroom was packed, so I get it. I understand now.
What kind of style is like, I hope I could say it right,
Vanguard.
Van-
Yeah, I would say it's probably a little transitional. Not super traditional, not super modern, but just really classic. And it's going to last for a long time, and it's going to be in style for a long time. And you can, like I said, everything is highly customizable. So you can choose what color fabrics you want, what color you want the wood to be. It can, if you want something painted, it can be painted in any Sherwin-Williams color paint that they make. I mean, it's just, the possibilities are endless. And so I really appreciate that, because it's hard to find when you have something in your head. As a designer, you get something stuck in your head and you're like, I cannot find this one thing that I need. And to be able to go to them and be like, this is what I need, this is the color I need it in, and they're like, okay. I'm like, great, thanks.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Any specific trends that you'd see approaching like next year in the design world?
I definitely saw a couple of trends, and I just wrote a blog post about this actually, but I'd say the top ones are a lot of natural elements. So a lot of bamboo, wicker furniture was huge. Just a lot of natural woods too, and a lot of glass. Anything from the earth, I felt like, was really prominent. And the other thing I noticed was the hardware on the furniture has gotten more interesting. Larger pieces, different colors, shapes, textures. It was just a really neat to see that. I love hardware, so it's like, oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so those are probably the top 2 things that I noticed in pretty much every single showroom that I went into.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing that.
Sure.
I noticed on your website you have a really cool design style quiz. Is it free to take?
Oh, yes, of course. Anybody can take it. Just visit mlrinteriordesign.com and it'll pop up for you, and you can take your quiz and find out what your design style is. See if it's the same one as me.
What would you say is your favorite style? Like for
So
your
I definitely am known for what I call contemporary coastal, and I live near the beach, so I take inspiration from the water and my surroundings a lot, but I do not do the literal coastal design. You will not find a picture of a boat or an anchor wheel anywhere on any of my walls. That's just, if that's you, that's great, but I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing here. So I try to just give you the feeling of being on a beach vacation without the literal interpretation of that.
Oh, that sounds like an amazing style.
Yeah,
I've
very
actually
relaxed,
not
comfortable.
heard of that.
Yeah, I just, because I made it up myself.
That's good. That's what makes you, Mandie.
Yeah, I was like talking to my coach and I was like, I don't know what to call what I do. Cause everyone's like niche down, find your style. And I was like, I love coastal, but I don't, do like what I said. I don't put the anchors on the wall. And she's like, it's more contemporary coastal. And I'm like, oh, that's it. Thank you. So that's what I'm going with.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that as well. Wow, we're getting kind of close to the end of my questions. Before I ask my last question, was there anything maybe that you had in mind that you wanted to talk about today? Maybe to branch off anything I asked you from before, how your visit went to High Point, kind of how your story has been with starting your business. Anything else you'd like to add?
Sure, I'll talk a little bit more about High Point because I feel like if you've never been, you don't really know what to expect going in. And there are some things I would do differently when I go back, because I will be going back. I didn't like it, I will go back. I would say first thing to do is to book your hotels right away, like as soon as you can, because everything sells out. Airbnb sell out, and you want to stay at a hotel. On the High Point Market website, they'll have information about the shuttle service, and so you'll want to pick a hotel where the bus comes and drops you off at and picks you up from, because Ubers, we discovered, are very expensive when everybody's trying to get to market, when everybody's trying to leave market. They wanted like $60 for a 5-minute ride. I'm like, yeah, no. So definitely book your hotel as soon as you can. I would say you do not need to rent a car. Parking there is not good. It's very challenging. So I would say take advantage of the shuttles. But with that, the shuttles only run in the morning and then they don't run again until later in the evening. So in my brain before we went, I was thinking, oh, I'll have this outfit I'll wear in the day, and then I'll go back to the hotel, change, and get ready for all the parties that happen at night, because there's just so many events and free food and drinks. It's a lot of fun. But that's not going to happen because the shuttle does not run, at a time for you to be able to do that. So whatever you wear during the day, you're also going to be wearing that night, unless you're lugging clothes with you, which nobody wants to do. So that I didn't realize. So I would definitely pack a little bit differently, for next time. And then, like I said, everybody's got free food and drinks everywhere you go. They offer a lot of classes too. So I got to see Sabrina Soto from HGTV. She gave a talk at Unique Loom, and she's amazing. What she's been able, I didn't know she started, she answered an ad on Craigslist, and it was for this job on HGTV. Yeah, and that's how she got started. So definitely a lot of educational seminars and stuff too that you can go to. And I would say the other big thing is download the app. The High Point Market has an app, and very, very helpful, and you'll get lots of free swag bags. So don't worry about that. You'll have lots of bags to be able to put your stuff in, because you'll be getting a lot of brochures and business cards and, stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely quite the experience, I would say.
It sounds like it. Thanks for sharing so much about that. Do you want to share anything more about your business? Anything specifically for my viewers?
I would just kind of hone in on the EDesign side for a second, just because I still think that people don't really realize what that is and what that means. Like when I talk to just, regular people. And so I think maybe focusing on education on what that is. I was just thinking I was going to write another blog post about it, put that out in Google land. Because it's tough if we're using terminology that the average person isn't using, then there's the disconnect, right? And how do you bridge that? So something to be thinking about for sure.
Can you explain a little bit about what EDesign is?
Oh, sure. It's when we are able to design for you when you don't live near us, right? So, for instance, I live in Mississippi on the coast, and I have a client in Virginia that needed her bathroom redone, and she doesn't live anywhere near me, but I was able to do the design for her. We met via Zoom, phone calls. I worked with our contractor. Just was able to send samples to her house through Material Bank. They will send your client samples as well. So when we met, she had all the samples there and we could go through them together. And then, like I said, just touching base with the contractor, FaceTime calls, walking through stuff. So it's definitely possible. And I think it's a good option for people, even if you do live near the designer, because we're not as involved in the sense that, like, I'm not having to go to the site and visit. And so it doesn't take as much time. So it tends to be a less expensive option for people to get a well-designed space without necessarily paying the high full service designer price tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can get really expensive for interior design work. So yeah, you make a good point. EDesign is a very good affordable option.
Yes. Yeah. Especially if you're the type that, not everybody needs full service, so there are definitely people out there who aren't designers, but who have a good eye and are perfectly capable of buying stuff online and putting it together and styling their own space. They don't necessarily need all that kind of help. But maybe they just don't know where to go for the best quality sofa for their budget, or, kind of what fabric to choose, because, that's a whole other world. So I think just it's a good opportunity to get a little bit of help with your design, and but it leaves a lot of the work, the ordering, the installing and stuff like that to the client. It's their responsibility, which I said a lot of people are perfectly capable of handling.
Thanks so much for sharing about that. You might have taught somebody new who doesn't know what EDesign is. I know we're, in the design world, we're very familiar with the, terminology of what EDesign is and what's, involved with it. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Before I ask my last question, anything else you would like to share?
Oh gosh. Put me on the spot. No, I'm kidding.
This is just like a few questions that I maybe I should have had a little bit more for questions, but
I would say, I know we were talking about High Point today, but there are a lot of other markets. I know you mentioned KBiz, which is in Vegas, right? And then there's the Atlanta market, which I've been told is mainly accessories, which is an area that I struggle with as a designer to find sources for. It's hard.
At the Atlanta market?
Yeah, so Atlanta market has a lot of accessories, I've been told, and that's in January, I believe. So I'm thinking about it's close to me. It's like a 6-hour drive from me. So I'm thinking about taking a little trip over there and checking that one out too. And the Vegas market, I've also heard is good. It's basically 3 buildings. It's only 3 buildings, like 10 or 12 stories, but it's only 3 buildings, and it's a lot easier to get through than High Point. So if High Point maybe is a little overwhelming to you and you're not quite sure you're ready for that, maybe try the Vegas market or the Atlanta market first, just to kind of get your feet wet and get a feel for what it's like. Not quite so overwhelming. So you have some other options out there too, if High Point's feeling a little like, whoa.
Is High Point open to the public?
No, it is not.
Okay, so only for interior designers, anyone in the interior design profession.
Correct. Yeah, you have to register ahead of time. You have to submit your, tax information, your resale certificate, all that kind of stuff. Oh, that's another thing. Bring your copy of your resale certificate with you. If you plan on opening any accounts, they'll ask you for that, obviously. But yeah, you get a badge, like a pass that you have to wear, and every time you walk into a showroom, your pass gets scanned, and then they it's a way for the company to keep track of who visited their showrooms. And after the market, High Point will email you a list of all the places that you visited while you were there, which is very helpful because when you've been to like 50 showrooms, you can't necessarily remember all of them. So that's really nice that they do that for you as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. So I'm at my last question. I really enjoyed my time with you, Mandie. Where can others find you? How can they contact you so they can work with you?
Sure. I am at online at mlrinteriordesign.com. And then, of course, I'm on all the social media platforms. Instagram is MLR Design 20, Facebook and Pinterest are just MLR Interior Design. So yeah, anybody can reach out if you have any questions, or just set up a free discovery call with me.
Or take your design quiz, right?
Or take my design quiz. That's right. If that's all you want to do, that's fine too. And I'll shoot you an email with your results and you can let me know if I was right or not.
Well, that covers the interview. I just want to thank everyone for listening to the Smart Designer podcast. I will include links below in the description that Mandie and I would like to leave for any of our viewers or listeners. And, reach out to Mandie if you'd like to work with her. The info in the description below will also be included to reach her. Thanks so much for listening, and stay smart, everyone.